This is one of the few cases I'm aware of where like the UFO actually like ran the car and seemed very intent on making sure that he did not stay driving on that road.
In an August 5th, 1966 issue of the Saucer News newsletter, there is a story that they refer to as, quote, one of the most unusual UFO encounters on record. While it's not the first of its kind, it's definitely up there as one of the strangest. It was February 7, 1965. A salesman in his mid-30s was driving home on a deserted road in the southwestern United States. The witness did not want his exact location released for whatever reason. As he drove, he caught sight of something so bright that it briefly blinded him. The object was glowing intensely, hovering about 25 feet and slightly above his car. It was football-shaped and about 30 feet in diameter. The object was menacing and seemed to be trying to force him off the road. No surprise he was frightened. He dodged the brightly gleaming object for several minutes as it moved about his vehicle. After dodging the brightly gleaming object for several minutes, the driver saw the UFO make a rapid, close approach. He made a hard swerve to avoid a collision and ran into a ditch off the side of the road. With that, the object flew away, leaving him alone in the dark on that back road. Because of what happened, he was terrified, but due to his situation and with no help coming, he decided to get out and try to figure out a way to get out of the ditch. It took him about an hour, but he was finally back on the road heading for home. Little did he realize that his evening of craziness was only just getting started. Driving as fast as he could whilst keeping an eye to the sky, the witness's heart sank when, nearly halfway to his place, he heard a loud hissing sound which filled the air. He broke into a cold sweat as he realized the strange flying object had returned, this time seemingly hell-bent on crashing directly into his car. Completely panic-stricken at this point, he slowed his car and jumped out, rolling away from the vehicle as fast as he could. He was uninjured and managed to get to his feet just in time to see the object zip down and begin ramming into his still-moving car, eventually forcing it off the road and crashing into a tree. The car was wrecked beyond repair. The exact details following the crash were not disclosed in the account, only that the witness managed to find help. Several days after his harrowing experience, he retrieved his car and had it towed away to a junkyard. The very next day, he received a phone call from the junk dealer, in a voice verging on hysteria, demanding that the car be removed from his premises immediately. He was quoted as saying, "I can't have that car in my lot. Not after what happened last night." What exactly happened last night is unknown, as of the time of printing the article, the witness had not returned the Saucer News' request for an interview. While paranormal author and archivist George Mitrovic has collected hundreds of such reports in which UFOs swoop down on cars, this is one of the few cases that I'm aware of in which the UFO actually made contact with the vehicle in an aggressive manner. It makes you wonder what exactly the purpose was beyond simply frightening the witness. Granted, something else might have been in play that UFO researchers at the time, and even the driver himself, never entertained. I wonder if some type of operation, maybe a repair, was playing out further up the road in the darkness, and that object he encountered was tasked with making sure that he did not venture too close to said operation. It certainly seems they weren't so much interested in the driver, as seemingly in both instances of crashing, the object departed, leaving the driver unharmed and alone. Making sure that he did not continue on his path seemed to be their sole objective, and apparently the easiest way to accomplish this was knocking him off the road and ultimately damaging his vehicle beyond repair, so that he could not continue his journey. A mysterious object appears in some photos taken by a man on vacation at Niagara Falls in Canada. Dirk Vanderplug, an editor at UFO World Newsletter, based out of Port Colborne, Ontario, would feature them in the March 2009 issue. Dirk Vanderplug claims that on January 21, 2009, he received an email from a man named Daryl. In the email, there was enclosed a series of photographs and a description of said images. 2008. Daryl had traveled to Niagara Falls in Canada looking for a couple of days of, quote, getaway time, a little rest and relaxation. He was staying at the Fallsview Casino in Niagara Falls, Canada. He was on the 18th floor looking at his room window at around 6:35 a.m. Monday, June 2nd, when he decided to take a few snapshots of the falls to keep as souvenirs of his trip. Remarkably, he did not see the object at the time. Later, he uploaded them to his home computer. When he inspected the photos, he was surprised to see an object on the right side of the photo that appears to be hovering directly over the basin of Horseshoe Falls. Daryl spoke to a pilot who stated that a helicopter of the size would not survive that close to the falls with all the turbulent conditions below the crest of the falls and the heavy water from the mist. He further checked with local authorities and discovered that helicopters were not allowed below the crest of the falls due to winds and extreme moisture. Intrigued by this development, he reached out to Transport Canada and asked the government agency to start an investigation into what he had captured that day. Plogue, in his write-up for UFO World, noted, Daryl later enhanced the photo and noticed the right-angle probe jutting out of the top of the object. He was using a digital camera which was a Samsung Digimax A6 6.0 megapixels, size set at 1600 by 1200, quality set at fine. Plogue himself seemed uncertain whether or not the object in the photo was a UFO or simply a helicopter pilot pulling a dangerous stunt. He wrote, "Compare the two close-ups and judge for yourself if they are the same."
When I first saw the photo, I just sort of dismissed it. Oh, that's a helicopter. But when I really looked at it, it looks a little bit off. The bar that holds the rotor, it seems really long, and it kind of looks like a helicopter, and it kind of doesn't. So I don't know. Could it be a drone? There wasn't really that many drones flying around at that time, so who knows?
A fishing trip suddenly turns strange when some odd-looking objects appear in the sky above. Upon returning home, one of the witnesses discovers that somebody might be keeping tabs on him. The witness, no name given, and his sister's boyfriend, both of Washington, Pennsylvania, had traveled to Maryland to do some fishing. It was June 1st, 2001 evening. The two friends were out on Deep Creek Lake in a small boat doing some night fishing. It was quiet, and from what they could tell, they were all alone out there. Before long, their evening of peace and playful banter would soon be interrupted. We noticed stars out in the distance near the horizon. The weird thing is that they look like they were fluttering. Sometimes gases make a star look like they are moving, but they really aren't, so after talking about it for a while, we just ignored it. The witness recalled that on that night the moon was really bright, so they didn't really require a flashlight to see what they were doing. After a few minutes, I looked back behind us, and there were thousands of these little lights almost playing in the clouds. They were interacting with each other, clearly flying in and out of the clouds. At the altitude of the clouds, they had to be a decent size. At this point, we weren't scared yet, but that would change. After a few more minutes, there was 3 large lights, one right over top of us, and one on each side of the boat. Immediately, the witness threw his shirt onto the lantern they had lit in the boat. He thought that maybe it was attracting the objects to them. Frightened and unsure of what he was dealing with, he immediately started the boat and tore off. The objects thankfully did not follow them. Upon returning home, the witness told his parents, who merely laughed it off. At the time, his father was working as the chief of police in Washington, Pennsylvania. The reason I'm telling you this is because it would factor into what would happen later. Within 2 weeks of the incident, the witness's stepmother came to him. "Did your dad tell you about the men in black guys that stopped down at the police station?" I said no. She said they asked him if anyone had reported seeing anything suspicious. He said no. He never said anything to me. Curiously, the witness noted, "When we were down in Deep Creek, I was using his truck and boat. Maybe this was a coincidence." In describing the objects, the witness claimed that they looked similar to the orbs or metallic balls witnessed in the Denchmont Woods case, only without the spikes. I would submit to a polygraph, and hopefully someone else can come forward and help explain what I saw. Sometime after, the witness and the sister's boyfriend stopped speaking to each other.